Hey, welcome back into Live from the Lawn, brought to you by Williams & Williams Worldwide Real Estate Auction and powered by Auction Network. We've been talking to some of our marketing team folks who office just on the other side of our studios where we are broadcasting live from in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Brian Merzlock joining us now. He's the Director of Strategies for Williams & Williams. Brian, you've been with Williams for what, about 3 years now?
3 years, yeah.
But your background in real estate goes way back beyond that. There's some specialized training you've got in education.
That's correct.
Marketing
yes.
these properties. Talk to me a little bit about your background and how that benefits those folks that bring properties to us and hit the block.
You know, I actually grew up in a real estate office, and if you grew up in a real estate office, you knew two things. If your dad was a broker or was associated with real estate, and that was where the candy machine was and where his pennies and quarters were hidden. So overall, you know, actually growing up in that atmosphere was extremely invaluable because I was exposed to not only the emotion of real estate, but some of the difficulties that arise from it. I then, you know, just could not leave that atmosphere. It's a lot of fun to see what man does with earth and the creative space that he creates with that, vertical structures. So at the end of the day, I chose to continue my study and go to UNLV in 1990. I went to UNLV and completed my master's degree in architecture. So at the age of 22, previous to that, I earned my appraisal certification.
And you saw a lot of houses when you were out.
Yes,
we're talking thousands of houses.
Yes, that's it. When we moved out to Las Vegas in 1998, there were 26 cranes in the air, high lift cranes, and then they were putting in close to around 500,000 homes over the next 7 years. So it was a great laboratory for architecture, real estate, houses to high rise. I got to be exposed to each type of entity, each type of sector, and see it come up from ground up. So
really
it was really great,
lines, yeah.
great laboratory. That atmosphere changed, you know, as we know, and as we're seeing throughout the country, these markets go in shifts. So it was a tough task to basically stay on top of where the market was. And as things changed from a bull market perspective to consolidation and then bear market conditions, some of the price was in flux. So it became a very interesting trend to see that change and then basically continue downward in the Las Vegas market. Being ahead of that curve with the national atmosphere helped me to understand exactly how real estate reacts when those things do happen. So.
And we've had several homes in the Las Vegas area and in Nevada that we've auctioned right here on our broadcast on Live from the Lawn. And of course, you've seen some of those firsthand. From what I understand, you went to some of the Williams auctions before you actually came here to work?
Yes. In fact, that's what one of my main draws to Williams & Williams was. I did have investors that I worked for trying to find opportunities, right, to buy at auction specifically. And we would go through the same process any buyer would do, and that is your due diligence. So it's a very important process that you find out exactly what that property is going to bring at auction day. And we always were blown away at the phenomenal results that Williams & Williams were able to bring, simply because we were out of the bidding quite quickly. That was a great exposure to me, and it drew my interest into this is going to create wider market share at some point. This is the future of real estate. And we're starting to see that today, now 3 years later. Auction is becoming more mainstream. It's becoming a household topic, you know, and it's obviously real estate agents, traditional real estate agents are starting to consider, I better learn about this and I better learn how it works, because it is actually taking that property public and it's given it that value that day or that price that day. So it's becoming a trend, and we continue to see that market share increase, and we're really excited about that. So
you see a lot of properties come across your desk. You're part of a big team that markets these homes, and we get them from all sorts of avenues, everything from private homeowners asking us to auction their homes. We've got businesses doing the same. We've got bank-owned properties, wide range of styles of properties. Tell us about your role. You've been here for about 3 years now. Tell us about the role that you play once these properties come through the door of Williams & Williams and Auction Network.
You know, typically our process starts with the seller. They typically will inquire about the auction process, and so as we go throughout the conversation, and sometimes it takes 1, 2, 3, or 4 conversations, it's natural as you're learning to understand the auction complexities. We typically establish what we determine is a probable price or an open market value for that property. And then off of that, we determine, well, is it our course of action then to take this property absolute? The term auction actually means to add value. And so we're going to take a property and try to add value to that property where we can. Maybe that means we repurpose it. Maybe that means we repurpose it into a product that's more bite-sized or something that the market is actually seeking. And so we're able to do those value add processes as we go throughout the discussion with the seller. At that same time, we need to be aware of price risk, right? So if there's any debt involved or if there's any kind of encumbrance that would not allow for that transfer of real estate, we need to be aware of that. So in general, we do go throughout that process. We discuss with them whether they would like to take the property absolute or with a reserve. And I think it's interesting, you know, we firmly believe in absolute. That is the best way to sell your real estate. Absolute actually conveys a different message to the market than reserve. Reserve actually means to hold back or to guard. And that's different than to add value. So
and
when we look at those two.
We've got properties coming up next week that sell without reserve, that are selling absolute. And for those of you that are just joining us or wondering what that means, it's once that high bid comes in, it's done.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and it's really just a process of where you feel the market price action is. So I can have 12 bidders on the lawn, and they're confident at a certain price point as we start that auction process. But at what price point are they starting to look at their watch and say, well, there's another property down the street.
Right.
I can get busy with that one real quick, or I've got a lunch appointment, I've got something else to do. So price determines motivation, obviously, and we just want to make sure that we set that expectation and make sure it's keen and ready to go prior to auction.
You know, our CEO and President Pam McKissick has auctioned your home absolutely, and in the book she talks about the price in your head. That a homeowner or a business owner that's wanting to auction their property, they have a price in their head, and you have to work with them. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. You got to find that kind of happy medium, and really, what are you going to get out of that property?
Yeah, it's a good point, especially when price is in flux. Real estate in general. We've seen spring forwards during the springtime. We just went through a very harsh winter where there wasn't a lot of activity. So we're anticipating that during the spring there's a little bit more activity. But at the same time, when price is consolidating, it's going up or it's going down or it's going up. It's really confusing. So when price is in flux, it's very important to understand what your marketplace is and where your risk bears. So. And
you just touched a little bit about on the market. So you touched on it when we introduced you as well. Where are the markets moving? I mean, there is a flux. We've seen it over the years. You know, we'll have hot states. Oklahoma's a hot state next month. We've got 30, I believe. Give me a second. I'm gonna look online. 37 properties on our website right now, as of this Friday, April 25th, in Oklahoma alone. Talk to me about where the markets are moving and kind of what you're seeing, what you have seen.
It's exciting to be in real estate right now, and especially real estate auction, simply because you are starting to see some of that inventory that we were aware of coming about. And I think in general, across all markets right now, most buyers are saying, well, there's not a lot of inventory available. So you know, it's kind of funny, the generation before us couldn't wait to get their mortgage paid off. And the generation in front of us is basically, we can't wait to get a mortgage. We can't wait to qualify. So you have this dynamic occurring, and so the supply has really shortened up quite a bit. But there is a lagging inventory that's not on the market, that's actually vacant right now. And so auction represents the opportunity to go in right then and there and get exactly what you want. So as a new home buyer or first-time home buyer, excellent opportunities coming up, as you stated, in Tulsa. Also throughout Oklahoma. We just had a great sale on a property up in northern Michigan today that did quite well. And these are all great properties to kind of get started in real estate or to continue to grow your portfolio. So,
Brian Merzlock, the Director of Strategies for our marketing team at Williams & Williams, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jason.
We'll have you back in the studio again. We'll be right back with more of Live from the Lawn.